Try that again. Okay. That's today's opening. Today's podcast is May 7th, 2021. And it's live and at 6 p.m. in Dallas, Texas. If you're tuned in on YouTube and at any point in time you wonder who is he talking to, it's not uncommon for me to have people uh, simultaneously viewing on Facebook. So sometimes action. So you'll forgive me. You're always welcome to go to my page, or you're welcome to post your own comments and start your own conversation. Whatever you want to do, I'm fine with that. I'm just letting you know myself. I'm not keeping you out of the loop. This podcast is simultaneously podcasted on two different websites. So that's my explanation. If you don't like it, please submit your paperwork and I'll revisit it and see if I can come up with another explanation. But until that happens, well, we'll just have to leave it at that. All right. So it's been a long day. And I welcome the approaching end of it, although it's really not even close to the end of it. It's 6 o'clock. And after this, I'm supposed to go to a dinner with some guys at a guy's house. But, I text them, oh, man, let's see. Text them at 4:30. That's an hour and a half ago and said, what's your address? And is it okay if I arrive late? And I've gotten no response. So maybe it's the wrong day. Maybe I don't have a dinner tonight. Hi, Ann and Mark, I assume, and whoever else is hiding in the bushes. Kathy's not coming for the first time because she doesn't feel good. We hope she feels better tomorrow and rejoins us. So, since the bulk of you tend to know me from the south side of Chicago, you do get a lot of Chicago stories. And as a result, this may seem at times skewed. I like to think of it more as delicious. How's that? It's just delicious. Whatever pops up out of the oven, we just cut into it and we eat it and it's all delicious. But if you were Lisa, for instance, or Joan, speaking of Lisa, she just said she has no real relationship to Chicago. She may feel left out. We don't want her to feel left out. So at some point, I will try to broaden the topics so that we're not exclusive to Chicago or even micro exclusive to the south side of Chicago or micro exclusive with Hyde Park. Wow, what a way to start the show with this attempt to expand, right, from what I thought was a logical persistent diminution in these proceedings, and then to say, well, as part of the evolution, there should be something more to pontificate about other than growing up on the south side, growing up and screwing up on the south side. There must be more to life. There must be more to a podcast. And if it's to hold people's interest over the long run, certainly it not only has to expand from topics like how I grew up on the south side, how is my street work on the south side and north side of Chicago. It's got to, I should tell you some. At some point, maybe I'll tell you stories about the topless club that I owned here, or the jazz lounge I thought I was owning here, or maybe the swingers club I owned in Arlington, Texas for a while. I could tell you about my automotive repair shop that failed quickly, tell you about the soft serve yogurt place I bought, sunk like a rock. You already know about the tuxedo stuff. I mean, we can go global, just like the pandemic. I can expand this until it's infected anybody within earshot. The problem, and it's just one Small problem. Bear with me. I don't remember most of my adult life anymore. Not because of the drugs and alcohol. I don't think. I think that's more a result of dying brain cells from things like um, aging. I think that the aging process is beginning to deprive me. Now, what would be interesting is for those of you who are close to age and me, or even younger, like Lisa, to examine yourself and uh, to share whether you have found a loss of the past or whether you find fairly good retention. Am I typical? Am I atypical? Um, so, but in an attempt to expand the podcast and its topics, I've already lost 2 listeners in the short period of time that I was almost bragging about how at some point I would be able to do that. So, luckily, I didn't put a lot of effort tonight into going global because the audience is getting smaller by the second. So, had I spent a great deal of time trying to come up with a story from the past, already we would be we'd be on the wrong track, right? We're losing people while I'm evolving, right? My memory is shot to hell already. What was I saying? Yeah. So Lisa is much younger than some of us, and she's apparently confessing to having some difficulties. So, so let's get on with it. So, I thought today, where am I going, man? I mean, where am I going? I told my bicycle buddy, the guy that I ride with, Paul. Paul and I ride Saturday morning well before dawn. We do it for 2 reasons: one, avoid traffic; two, to avoid weather. Now, in the winter, that doesn't always work well, so we start moving it up, maybe to 6 a.m. sometimes. But so Paul asked if he could. He's busy this weekend. Could we leave at 5 a.m. and go on a bike ride today and do a long one, because we want to do a really long one before the summer's over, before the season's over. So I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. I looked at my calendar, and strangely enough, I had nothing going on today. Okay. So I said, yeah. So I'm up at 3 because I get anxious when I have to be up at 4:30. Well, 4:15. I get anxious because, like, oh, I'm gonna sleep through the alarm. I never do. But anyways, I got up at butt crack of the morning, and I have to, in order to meet him at 5, I have to leave my house before 5 because I'm biking 2 miles to him. So I leave about 10:05. Off I go, uh, and I meet him, and we rode and we rode and we rode. And it's a weekday; it's not a weekend. So here's where I was going with that part, a little snippet. There's traffic. Uh, at some point, people are going to work, and they're going to work in every direction. So there's no, oh, well, thank goodness we're going in the opposite direction of rush hour. So we pedaled and pedaled and pedaled, and we got to McKinney, Texas, North McKinney, Texas. And then we came back and we stopped for breakfast at the Starwood Cafe. And he wants to split the breakfast. He always wants to split the breakfast. So we got this bowl of eggs and grains, quinoa and some mushrooms or something. I wasn't that much food. It was really shy for a bowl, and we have to split it. Now, there's a reason I mention that, because he does this, and then he wants to bicycle another 30 miles, and I run out of energy because I need fuel, man. So, and that's kind of what happened. But I made it 72 miles, and I got home, and this is not going to shock anybody, but um, or maybe it will shock you. I'm tired, man. I was tired. I was thinking I'd go out and do another 30, after I came in the house and, maybe cleaned up a little bit, get back out on the bike because it was early. I mean, so I left at 5. I was out 7 hours. I got back around noon 30. So once I got in the house, I'm like, I ain't going nowhere. And I laid down and life became a blur. So I thought to myself, well, what do you have to do today? Well, all I have to do is my podcast and then this dinner. So I thought, well, if you do this podcast without some stimulation, you're going to babble because you're just toast. Your brain, put a fork in me, I'm done, right? So I actually tried to give some thought, and all I could come up with is, where am I going? So I said to Paul on the way home, I'm thinking of moving back to Tucson, for instance, because they've got mountains. And they didn't have biking when I was there before, but they have biking now. They have hiking. I don't have hiking here. And I said, but it's hard for me to think of leaving because my relationship with Paul is important to me. Not because he and I are that tight. We are real tight. But it's been 6 years. And see if you can relate to this. For 6 years, most Saturdays, we have gone on a bike ride. Average bike ride's probably 40 miles. We do some long ones in the summer. We do some shorter ones in the winter. And I thought, it's not easy to find a bike partner. It's like finding a good hiking partner, a good movie partner, whatever. All of you have friends. I know that. But you don't all have friends that like doing this one thing that you really enjoy. And it's not easy to get somebody to do it because it's challenging, whatever way. Maybe you're a member of a crossword puzzle club. You're tired of going alone, doing alone. You want one of your friends to go with you, and everybody looks at you and goes, I have no interest in going to a crossword puzzle club. Well, with me, it's bicycling. So I bicycle. So I have one person once a week that's willing to just chill, go out together. We push it, but we don't kill each other. We don't fight. And we've been doing it for years. And I said, that's hard for me to leave because that would be hard to replace. Now, Chris, who's not here as far as I know, Chris is a relatively recent acquisition in terms of friendship, and he rides a bike. He's more of a shorter distance guy, but he's expanding, and I welcome it because now there'll be two people that enjoy bicycling every week and going places because I like being on a bicycle. And here's why I like being on a bicycle: it's good exercise, keeps me fit, keeps me from having to be on any supplements or any medications. I don't take any medications. I've told you that. And I don't take any supplements except melatonin when I go to sleep. So this is a nice thing to have in my life. And I know, as I said to Paul, if I go to Tucson, if I move there, well, I have friends there. I know already I don't have any friends that want to do 40, 50 miles at a pop with or without electricity. So, and I don't have my hiking buddies, except for one, Suzanne, are all dead. Well, the monk hikes once a week. My other hiking buddies have died. Okay. So I'm reluctant to really imagine myself moving to a new environment. Anybody who's moved in their 50s and 60s, if you've done that, it's tremendously emotionally and physically and mentally draining. It takes action. It takes a lot of action. You have to shut down wherever you live. You have to reopen someplace you're going to, and you got everything that goes on in between, including the decisions what goes with. Do I purge? Do I purge everything? Do I purge something? Anyways, it's a lot of energy, and I don't have a lot of energy. So I'm not moving, but I think about it. But when I think about it, I think, these see, like you people, I can podcast from Tucson. I can podcast from Chicago. I can move anywhere. What do you care? If you care about my podcast, you'll find it. It's not that hard, right? So, I don't know really how Paul feels about the bike ride. Apparently, he values it because he does it pretty much far more often than he doesn't. He may cancel maybe, so there's 52 weeks in a year. He may cancel about 10 times, but 42 bikes over a period of years it's been pretty good. And like anything else, as a you're chatting just as if you were hiking. So, um, I asked myself the question, where am I going? And I came up with the answer, I'm on the road to nowhere. And then I thought, well, maybe. And then I put or, because or maybe I'm not, maybe or I got someplace to go. So of course, when you think I'm on the road to nowhere, you think of the Talking Heads. So I pulled that up. And when I pulled it up, I thought, what else goes with that? And I found a song called Going Nowhere Fast. I had never heard it. I posted it. Maybe you'll like it. But then I thought, you know, um, I'm going where the sun keeps shining through the pouring rain. Harry Nilsson, everybody's talking from Midnight Cowboy, right? So I pulled that up, popped it in there, and then I thought, or I always wanted to be a spaceman. I love that song, and I've never known why I love the song. Wanted to be a spaceman. Well, I guess the song is Spaceman. The lyric is wanted to be a spaceman. That's how we came up with the music, and the theme of podcasting tonight is anybody really on the road somewhere? I mean, any one of you may imagine that you have you are on a journey, and you have some sense that journey takes you somewhere. But in reality, as often find, you got nowhere. You were in the fast lane, got nowhere. Me, I moved over the slow lane, I got somewhere. Ray Dean says you have a whole family of friends now, and they love that bike ride, as you have shown us before the COVID lockdowns. Be happy where you are. Well, easy for you to say when you wake up in the morning, Ray Dean, in Dallas, Texas, you don't see a mountain in any direction. And hiking is kind of laborious because there isn't really any place to hike close in. So, and at least, as Marv would say, Arizona elected 2 Democrats for senator for the Senate. Dallas is just a political wasteland in a lot of ways. Now, speaking of going nowhere, I went to Italy. No, it's an Italian island in the Mediterranean, and I don't remember the name of it. If you look in the background, there's a white thing. You can't really see it, and this whole thing sucks. But that's the cruise ship I was on with my mother. My mother and I went on a cruise for a couple of weeks through the Mediterranean. My sisters and brother-in-laws went too, and there's a picture. Now, I want to tell you where I was, but I want to show you some of the pictures first. I'm on top of the island, okay? I'm actually on a tomb. And what happened was, it's all taken from the top of the island. You could see for 360 degrees. So this island, I've been trying to figure out the name of it unsuccessfully, but it was a Roman controlled island back when there were Romans. Don't ask me when that was. And the guy who ran this part, the general, because that's how they did it, right? Generals were, I don't know, were they viceroys or anyways, they were in charge of vast areas that they were to control with their troops, and they were the government. Well, whoever this general was, he chose to have a tomb built at the very top of the island and to be buried there with his family. And so I got off the boat. Again, I probably told this story too, but at least it's not a Southside story. I got off the boat that morning, and it was the morning of the solar eclipse. And there was one woman on the boat that was my age on that entire boat. And I asked if she wanted to take a walk because I'm a cool cat, like I got the rap, right? And so we did. And we found this road going up. and it said something about a park. We didn't speak Italian, we didn't read Italian, but parque seemed to be a safe bet, and it was clear going up. So we went up, and we were going up, and we got to the park, but we didn't. I don't think we got up. Did we get up all the way? Yes, yes. We kind of got up all the way, but she did not want to linger or look around. She wanted to be back on the boat for the solar eclipse. We had these special glasses they gave us on the boat. You know, they're some sort of tinted glasses. So we had to head down because I'm that kind of guy. If you don't want to do this, then let's go back. So we got back to the boat, and I'm like, hey, kids, you know, anybody around here want to go back up to the top of this island? I think it was pretty primo, but I didn't get to look around. Nobody. So I'm like, after lunch, let's nobody, right? So I got up the boat by myself after lunch, and I flagged down a cab because I didn't want the boat to leave me. So I didn't want to walk up there because I was afraid the time it would take me to walk up and walk down, the boat would leave without me. And because they don't really hang around. I don't know if they take attendance. So so I grab a cab and I tell him I want to go up to the top. I'm sure I didn't say a tomb because I didn't know it was a tomb. And he stopped at this on the way up. There was this little cluster of buildings, and he just got out of the car. I suppose he said something to me, but I didn't understand. I waited in the back of the cab, and he came out with this young man. The young man got in the cab, and off we went up the island. What he had done was, knowing that I was going to the top to the tomb, he had stopped to pick up the caretaker of the tomb. Wow. So we drive up to the top. Doesn't take that long. It's a winding road, but we drive it. Remember, I walked it in the morning. And we get up there, and this kid opens the tomb. I mean, he's got the keys, man. He opens up the tomb. He gives me a tour. They spoke some English. Don't get me wrong. The whole thing wasn't like, ¿Qué? ¿Cómo? ¿Qué haces? Yo no sé. That's all Spanish, but that's close as I get to Italian. So they spoke enough English for me to understand that I was in the uh, this tomb of a great Roman general and his family. So, you know, you walk around, it's a circular tomb. It's so appropriate top of this island. And then it took me up a ladder to the roof. I mean, this would have been off, even if the tomb had been open for tourists, the roof would not have been. But there was just three of us, the cab driver, the kid. I call him a kid. I was in my 40s, and he was much younger than me. So then I got those pictures taken, and I asked them to take the picture of me that you see where, you know, I'm standing at the top of the island. And so that was really cool. That's one of those serendipitous things. You know, I can imagine that there were a lot of cabs around because a lot of tourists, and I could have gotten one that just didn't give a crap, just took me up there, let me look around. But this guy stopped, knew the caretaker. I guess small island, probably everybody knew who the caretaker was, huh? And so, like I say, serendipitously, I really had a cool adventure. Got back down, got on the boat, and whenever they took off, I took off with them. By the way, so before we went on the cruise, they sent out information, and they said each week there would be a formal night, and everybody would be required to wear formal wear. Men must wear tuxedos, women must wear a gown. And then you go into this formal dining room. So let me explain. On the boat, there's 300 passengers, 300 staff. Now, 300 staff were not dedicated to the passengers. A bunch of them were running the place, cooking, whatever it is. So it's a really nice cruise my mother had arranged for us. And so So I don't wear formal clothing. It's a very rare occasion where I will wear anything that remotely resembles formal wear, up to and including tuxedos. So I didn't pack a tuxedo. I packed uh, what do you call it? A suit, uh, a nice suit, by the way. Name brand. It wasn't Armani, but it's somebody like that. Somewhere down here, though, Armani being a. And so I'm thinking to myself, really, you got to dress formal. I'm like, I'm not buying it, right? Because I'm on this boat and, we eat in that dining room and I eat in there every night, either with family or people I met on the boat. There's a less formal dining room open every night that you can go to. I guess it had a buffet. I never went to the dining there at night. And then you had room service 24 hours a day. So I'm okay, you know. So I'm like, you know what? If they won't let me in the dining hall, I'm going to go to the other dining area. I'll just eat there. It's not formal. So we're approaching the night of, and my sisters find out I don't have a tuxedo. They're like, how could you do that? How could you show up without a tuxedo? Well, it's really easy. I just didn't get one and I didn't pack one. Uh, Ironically, as Ray Dean knows, I subsequently owned almost 36,000 tuxedos, but that was years later. So I started inquiring of the maitre d' and stuff. Do you really need formal wear? And he's like, yes, if you don't have a tuxedo, you don't get into the dining hall. So, and then they close the informal dining room on the night they do the formal. I'm like, seriously? What about people that didn't bring a tuxedo? Well, I guess you can eat in your room. So I begin to get a little antsy. I don't want to be banned to my room. I want options. I started looking for formal wear. Well, I'm on a boat, kids, in the middle of the Mediterranean. And with one day to go, you don't hustle up a tuxedo. I think I found a tuxedo shirt in the gift shop, something close to it, but no tuxedo to go with it. So I'm like, you know what? This isn't going to work for me. So the night of formal night, I put on my suit. And I used to always know the name of the suit. The suit had a name. You look inside, there's a name. And I go to get my mom. She knows. She's cool. And so we're sitting there waiting for my sisters and brother in laws. And again, they walk in and look at me in a nice suit. Abood. The last name was Abood. There's a first name to the designer. It's a nice suit. It's olive. It's not black. Okay. And my sisters are tripping, man. They're like, you can't go to the dining hall. They're not going to let you in. And my mother, my dear, dear mother, I got to tell you, she looked at them and my sisters and brother in laws and said, what are they going to do? He's with his mother, and she was probably 85 at the time. He's with his, 80-something-year-old mother. What are they going to say? They're going to tell him he can't come in? Don't be ridiculous. Let's just go. And I have a picture from that night, and I'll try to find it in the days soon. I think I found it. I got to figure out where I do it. Anyways, it's my mom and I took a picture at the bottom of a stair that goes up to another deck. So they didn't say a word. All that anxiety about whether I was dressed appropriately. Because listen, when you have 300 customers and almost the same amount of staff, and you're on a boat and you're on the Mediterranean, and people are wearing tuxedos, these people were a little, you know what I'm saying? I don't want to denigrate them, but do you know what this means, by the way? Yes, of course you do. It means little nose in the air. And in fact, uh, so I was out by the pool one day. I just think I've told every story I can ever think of, and I told it to you. So I was out by the pool one day. My mom was there. My dad had passed away. My mom was there, probably my sisters. They tended to stick close to my mom most of the time. And this older woman sees me moving about and calls me over. She got to be about 79, and not like a vigorous 79. She calls me over. She's laying on a deck chair, and she says, "Can I talk to you for a minute?" I said, "Sure." And she said, "So you're alone too?" She was going to pick me up. Now, I don't know that she was going to pick me up in the sexual sense, but she was looking for companionship on this cruise. My God, I felt bad immediately because, when she says two, I got it. She's alone on this boat. And I said, "No, I'm not alone. My mom, my sisters are here on the boat with me." And she's like, "Oh." And you could tell she was disappointed. She thought she'd found a fellow lone traveler. So I went to the cruise director, this young woman who was in charge of stuff. Like, she would announce events, things you could do, music events, whatever the hell it was. And I went to her and said, "I'm guessing she's not the only old lady by herself." She said, "Yeah, maybe not." I said, "Well, why can't we have a table? Like my family had its own table. A lot of people, if they were in twos or threes or ones, were sitting at tables with other people, maybe that they knew, or that when they'd come in the first day, so most everybody was sitting at a kind of an assigned table. You really didn't have to sit at your assigned table, but people had staked out their tables. My mom and sisters, but I didn't want to sit with them really. My sisters were calling me a merchant of death because I owned a gun range. It was uncomfortable. So the cruise director and I started our own table for old, lonely people. It's one of the few things I did karmically in my life that was a good thing. And we had about 8 older women, all women. There was no guy. I was the guy. No, I didn't get over like a fat rat in a cheese factory. No, that didn't happen. This one woman and her daughter could have been a object of my affection, perhaps, but she didn't show the least bit of inclination. Anyways, they were kind of younger. The mother was maybe younger than most of the women, and the daughter was probably closer to my age, not the one I walked with. So they came once or twice, but they had their table. I let up floating around the dining hall over the time we were on the cruise. I don't know, maybe it was 1 week cruises we took. So what I did was I met people that I thought were funny, personable, and I would seek them out at dinner time. And if they had room at their table, I'd plop myself down and sit with them so that I wouldn't have to sit with my family. Then my family would say, "Where were you?" I'd say, "Oh, that nice couple I met." And I sat with them. Or I'm sitting with these old people, they're by themselves. So that was the cruise. And I don't know where I went in the Mediterranean, but there I am at the top of the island. And did that help? That was pretty pandemic, right? That was global. It wasn't a virus, though. I know it's not a pandemic. Calm down, everybody. I wasn't alerting you to a new pandemic. I was just being loosey goosey with the English language. Okay, so and by the way, on that cruise, um, I don't remember much because it's about 1990 maybe. I'll get you a picture of me and my mom though. We were grooving, man. And uh, uh, there were some people from the South Side on the cruise. The Kovler family, and Johnny Kovler was general manager of the Bulls, and they went to high school with my sister, and so and his younger brother went to high school same time I did. He was at a private high school. I was at a public one. Well, they had owned Jim Beam. I hope I don't get in trouble for this. The Kohler family had owned Jim Beam. Everybody here has heard of Jim Beam, and they had sold it and become philanthropists. I think they made a killing on the sale. And they were pretty much full-time philanthropists and part-time but significant owners of the Bulls. And so my sister, she's friendly with Johnny. My mom knows the dad, and the dad was remarried, so we didn't really know his wife, I think. And Peter was there. Peter had gone. He's close to my age and went to high school same time. Remember, everybody I met in high school was older than me because I was young. And I was like, hey, Peter, it's King Goldberg. And he just looked at me like, having a clue, man. Don't have any idea. So, I remind him, so, okay, and that was the last time he spoke to me. The only time I saw anybody was in the casino at night. I only went in there just because it got lonely on the boat at night when everybody was in the bar in the casino because I wasn't drinking or drugging back in those days. So there's no point sitting in the bar very much. Go to the casino. It was a tiny casino, like 2 tables. This was a small boat, upscale, but small. So I'm rambling. So we stopped in where the apes, where the great apes. England owns that island, and my mom and I walked around together. Remember, she was in her 80s, so we didn't go real far, but my mom and I hung out. We went there, and then we got to it wasn't Barcelona. It was another major city, and they tell us we can get off the boat. We can do every day. They let you sign up for something to do. They would organize these tours, and you paid. And not knowing anything, I signed up immediately to do something somewhere. And I was on the island where Marbella is. So if you know where Marbella is, then that's the island. Maybe it wasn't an island. I don't know. Where's Marbella? Let's find out. And how do I remember Marbella? So it's a Spanish island. Marbella homes for sale. Okay. League City, Texas. That's not the Marbella I went to. Um, I went to a different Marbella, Spain. Okay, let's look it up. All right, Marbella, city in Spain. Is it in Spain? Is Spain on the Mediterranean? Quite possibly. So, so we get there, and I get off the boat, and I get in a bus with some people. You guys still with me? Anyways, they took us to a little cute shopping area. Cute, This is old. Listen, Spain is old. Spain was built up before anybody knew the United States existed other than indigenous people who lived here, right? Remember, there was this guy, Christopher Columbus, and this is going back to the 1400s. You with me? Okay. He went to the Queen of Spain, I believe her name was Isabella, and he said, hey, I can find America. I think I know where New York is. Let me have some boats. Let me go get New York, buy some real estate now, get in low, sell high. So off they sailed. And so Spain was there before Anglos from Europe got here. And so it's this cute old shopping center. And this is not Marbella. This is somewhere else. But it's like attached. They're all attached. Um, Hell, what does it say about Marbella, Spain? It's got to be a part of something. But we walked through this area, and frankly, it's closed. The shopping area is closed. We're too early. It's morning. Nothing's open. But they're like, come on, we're going to walk around. It's tour guide. And we get back on the bus. We're going to Marbella, which is a coastal area. Delightful. Get off the bus, and they've arranged for us to have finger sandwiches. Now, I'd never had finger sandwiches. I'm not missing out on the finger sandwiches. And we get off, and you're on the coast of the Mediterranean, and it's just delightful. There's water. There's these big, beautiful boats. This is a really upscale area, man. This is like, I'm like, wow. Now this is cool, man. There's cafes everywhere on the ocean, or the sea, whatever they call it. And so they direct us to go to this restaurant, cafe. We're going to have finger sandwiches. So I go with the other people. I'm guessing there's 15, 20 people. Sit down. I want you to know finger sandwiches when you haven't had anything else, really unimpressive. Okay. Finger sandwiches are probably good at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You've had breakfast, you've had a light lunch. Now, before dinner, you go, you sit down, you have tea, which I don't drink, and you have finger sandwiches. That's probably pretty groovy. But I want you to know if you didn't have, if you only had a light breakfast, and you haven't had any lunch, and somebody tells you, we're going to feed you, you're like, I'm in, count me in, right? If you don't know what finger sandwiches are and you get that invite, let me tell you now, stop and get a hot dog or something before you go. So, all right, I get through the finger sandwiches, fine. I'll get something to eat. There's cafes everywhere. I, I'm getting ready to come out, and they say, all right, we need to get back to the bus. I haven't seen anything. I paid like $75 to be driven nowhere and see nothing, right? I was on the road to nowhere. So I got to get back on the bus because you can't leave me in Marbella and go back to the boat. And so what I found out is wherever I was pretty much dead. Where I was in Marbella would have been kind of cool. But back by the boat, wherever we docked, it was dead. Dead as a doornail, man. There was nothing to do. So let me wrap up by saying I hope that by telling you something about the Mediterranean and Ken, we've expanded this podcast so it's no longer just little anecdotes about growing up on the south side of Chicago or, being arrested. Look, how many times have I been arrested? We've never really talked about that, but, there was the first one was loitering and disorderly conduct and resisting arrest. The second one was disorderly conduct. The third one was, I think, disorderly conduct. Then there was the uh, felony arrest, possession of marijuana, and possession of stolen and mislaid property. And then there was the burglary charge. So I had I had I had a, we don't have to talk about all that, right? We've just expanded. We've taken this podcast called Law and Disorder, which I could fairly have talked about my own criminal history in all fairness, because law and disorder, perfect, perfect, right? But no, we're going to keep doing this podcast night after night. You need to be entertained. You need to have your socks rocked, man. You're giving your time and your attention, you know, you're watching this podcast. I am not going to cheat you. I am going to figure this out. I am going to plumb the depths of my memory to try to remember what in the hell happened in the past that would be of any interest to people in the present. Ain't barbecue pulled pork? Well, I don't think that's a full sentence. I think isn't pulled pork barbecue, because barbecue is not just pulled pork. Now, I don't know how we got on the subject of pulled pork from the Mediterranean. Maybe did I tell you that I was going to dinner shortly, and that ah ah I just got a text with the address. Apparently, there's only three of us for dinner. So the dinner is pork roast. I probably said that in the beginning. That's why Radine brought up pork. I think he's cooking it on the grill, and some side dishes. I consider myself lucky that I'm going. It's now I know there's only three of us for whatever reason. There was five down to three, and we're all vaccinated, so we can be indoors or outdoors. It's hot right now, but that bodes well for when the sun goes down. It'll probably be comfortable to sit outside. I drank some 5 hour energy drink about 15 minutes before the show began because I was dying. Quite frankly, I was dying. So I appreciate those of you that stuck with me. If you tuned in, I want you to know that There are a million stories in the Naked City, and there's also half a dozen in Dallas. And I will share. I can't imagine there's much I wouldn't share with you, whether it's, you know, how I accumulate a criminal record. Um, yeah, yeah, Ray Dean, I wasn't given pulled pork finger sandwiches ever. I think finger sandwiches tend to be things like cream cheese and cucumbers. And Radine, if you know the name of it, there was that botanical garden that had high tea in the afternoon with finger sandwiches. It was expensive, but it was kind of fun. I took my daughters there. Maybe you remember the name. You lived there. That was kind of cool. My daughters and I would go to the botanical garden in Tucson every day around. I don't know what time it was around, but they would tell you this thing, and they would bring out salmon on these little slices of bread with cream cheese, cucumber, and it was tasty and it was well prepared. But the ambiance, you were in this room with the uh, tablecloths, and you could walk around outside. There were the plants and everything. It's really nice. I took my daughters there, and the three of us, we really had a good time. Maybe my ex-wife was there. Gosh, now I think about it, she probably was. So maybe we didn't have as much fun as I'm saying we had. Maybe my daughters and I barely enjoyed it. Anyways, I I'm rambling. It's really time to do something called uh, reflection on loving kindness. For those of you that are new and that were hiding out, you didn't check in, you didn't want to make a comment and say, "Hi, Ken, this is so and so in Santa Fe, New Mexico, saying hi." I get it. But now, Tohono, Tohono Chul. Yes, thank you. So Tohono Chul is the name of the park. It's a private botanical garden. And if you're ever in Tucson, it's kind of a cool place to go. I don't recommend the finger sandwiches very often, pretty pricey. But I was doing a radio show. Okay, footnote. I was doing a radio show at the time in Tucson, and the radio station had uh, free high tea passes. So that's what we used. The radio station gave me enough passes or free high tea, and that's how we landed up going there. I wasn't paying like, I don't know, $17 or something. Okay, so I was saying we end this thing, every podcast, with a reflection on loving kindness. If you're new to this, you didn't check in, I want to tell you this practice is critical to the well being of all human beings as practitioners and as recipients. So it derives from the time of the Buddha. It's something that the Buddha taught the monks, that the monks teach the lay people. And we bring our hands together before our hearts. We bow our heads, we close our eyes, we take a deep breath. And we think to ourselves, may I be happy, healthy, free from harm. May I be free from anger, anxiety, and fear. And may this practice of metta bring us to a place of greater peace and comfort in our lives. May my mother and father, even if they've passed away, and all my living family members, and all my friends be happy, healthy, and free from harm. May they too find a path that leads them to a life of greater peace and comfort. And may those persons I have difficulty with, I have resentments towards, or any ill will in this moment, I send them goodwill. May they be happy, healthy, free from harm, enjoying lives, peace, comfort, and even joy. And to all living beings throughout the entire universe, all living beings, humans and non humans, we send out our collective goodwill. May all beings be happy, healthy, free from harm. May they be safe, comfortable, and at peace. Sawtoo, sawtoo, sawtoo. So thank you. Thank you, Mark and Ann. Thank you, Joan, Ray Dean, and Elisa. And there were some other people. Joan, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, Joan was. Maybe I said Joan. See, anyways, if you were there,